Hi, my name is Nathan Kuchik, and I'm here with David Ola from Hungary and Mr. Alexander Timbani from Ghana, West Africa, and I'm interested in other cultures. I'd like to find out how the culture which you two grew up in is different from mine. So I have a series of questions to ask you. Is it okay with both of you if I record this interview and use it for my oral and interpersonal communications class?
Sure. Yes, sir.
Mr. Ola, will you explain to me where you grew up, city, region of country, and its proximity to the capital?
Okay. Well, I was born in Hungary, the east side of Hungary, in a fairly large city, more like a large town here, 200,000 people living there. And then we moved to a smaller little village where I was growing up for 2 years, and then we changed to the west side of Hungary, where we were living in the suburbs. And that was our area. It's basically where we were growing up, and just like in a rural area, like where rich people live. Basically, that's the idea.
Then, Mr. Timbani, will you explain that same question? Answer the same question.
Basically, I grew up in the western side of my country, and I grew up in a typical Ghanaian village, which was basically a farming community. From there, the distance is probably 100 to 150 kilometers from the capital, and most people are able to commute from my village to the capital by mobile transport, by either using cars or motorbikes as they travel on a daily basis. It is not a whole day journey. It's a journey that can take place maybe in an hour or an hour and 20 minutes. So I grew up from there, and right now, before I came over to the States, I actually moved to stay in that particular state capital city and of that region of the country. But then moving from my village to the capital of the whole country, which is called Accra, it's a 12-hour drive away. So that's quite a bit of distance.
And so when did you first begin attending college in the United States, and why did you choose the college that you did?
Go first.
Okay. I started attending college in the United States in January 2019. And I chose Baptist College of Ministry because I needed further training in my theological studies in order to be able to serve God in the way that He's called me. And God simply directed me here because I had a pastor, who taught me in college back home. He is a graduate of this school, and he recommended this school. And the life that I saw in him, the transformation I saw in him, his love for God, his love for Christ, and his love for people was what encouraged me to look more into the college, but also preparing to do ministry. There are some key things that I needed to take care of, or I needed to get, and that is solid academics. So I realized that Baptist College of Ministry, though it's a ministry school, they are solid on academics, and that is what I want. Because I believe that God is not looking for people who are half-baked, in terms of quality to use. He must use people that are really well-trained for the work. If we look at our secular society, see how much studies and how quality works our physical physicians has to go through, how much more we people who are going to be handling the souls of men, which is very much important. So that was the things that I considered, and that led me to choose BCM. The other aspect was affordability. How was I going to pay for my college? And the Lord provided a scholarship for me. So through BCM, I'm able to study here in the college and also work here in the college and be able to pay for my education in the United States.
That was a good answer. It's pretty long. What was the question again?
It was, when did you first begin attending college in the United States, and why did you choose the college that you did?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So first time I came was back in 2011. So that was quite 8 years ago, and I started with undergrad. So I came here. It was back in 2006 when I heard about this college while we were traveling here in the United States with my family. And then so we came here. We saw that this is just the college that was for me. I mean, this is where God wanted me to come, so that's why I did it. In 2011, you know, and then ever since I'm here, I started my master's just 2 years ago. So that's why I'm finishing up this year.
And then what are some differences you noticed about the United States when you first arrived for college?
Ooh, not much. I mean, we're in the European Union, Hungary, so we're getting a little more and more more used to, you know, like it's the same kind of deal, it looks like. Maybe everything is bigger here. Cars, food, people, I don't know. I mean, it's a bigger everything, you know, even the roads, parking spots, you know, it's just, I go back to Hungary, it's like all of a sudden, oh, okay, I feel like claustrophobic here, you know. But we're getting on the same level, so it's, I guess Brother Alexander can talk a little more differences about his jungle and the city.
Exactly. For me, there are definitely differences between the United States and my country, being an African country for that matter. One of the biggest differences is just the people. The people are very different. The way they think is different. The way they relate to other people is different. For instance, if in my country, if I am working with Mr. Ola and we go up and meet my friend, immediately my friend will begin talking to him because he's my friend and he's my friend. Here in the United States, it's not like that. If he's my friend, I have to introduce him to my friend before he can begin to talk to him. It doesn't happen that way back home. So that was a very big thing for me to transition into. So when I meet people, I'm expecting to shake hands with them and begin a conversation. But I begin to realize, no, that is not how it works. People here think differently. And then the weather definitely is one of the shocks that I had to experience having to come in January. And I remember getting out of Chicago O'Hare Airport and I'm like, whoa, this is so different. I was really cold. You know, so it's very much different. And the third thing is basically just the food. The food is different. Quite recently, I've asked somebody whether there is an American food that you can just swallow without chewing on it. And actually the person said, no, there isn't such a thing. He mentioned even ice cream, but gave the exception that even some people chew on ice cream. So, and whereas in my culture, in my country, people, I mean, there are foods that you literally swallow into your stomach without having to chew on them. So that's the third difference. It's just so different. And also the language is pretty, I mean, my country was colonized by Britain, so I grew up learning British English. So there are a couple of things that are not in the same way in line with American English. So it's really another difference, just the way people use the English language.
And what age did you begin your English studies, and did you feel prepared for your life in the United States?
Okay, well, I guess you started your English when you were born, right? Yeah. Well, when I was 2 years old, that's the first time we came to America to visit my aunt, who actually migrated here back in the 80s. And then that's when it started. And then I went to public school there in Hungary, and they started in first grade already English, and then I took English major on. So there was 1 year when I had 14 English lessons per week. And so that really trained me. Right after that year, it was 2006 when we came to visit again America. I went back. So I was kind of fluent by then. So I started off, I think, when I was 6. And still learning. It's not there yet, but hopefully.
Okay, for myself, in Ghana, you begin to learn English when you get into formal education. So when in the villages, you don't get to go to preschool, nursery, kindergarten, and all that. You just go to first grade. So once you get to first grade, and most especially in the villages, the teacher tries to teach you English, but at that early stage, 7 years, 8 years, you still cannot speak English. You will begin to learn the English alphabet, begin to learn 2-letter words, 3-letter words, but it really doesn't click, or it really doesn't matter at that level. Where it gets to be serious is when you are in 4th grade, 5th grade, 6th grade. That is where the demands or the necessity of the language becomes very clear and becomes very demanding. But for me personally, it wasn't until I got to high school that my English, the learning of English turned around for me, because I went to rural schools, public schools, so it wasn't that much of an issue. Yes, we studied English as a required subject, but it wasn't something that we spoke on daily basis. But when I got to high school, it was really a rule that you have to speak English all the time. And you could not speak a local dialect. If you spoke a local dialect, you get a punishment for that. So it kind of forced people and encouraged them to speak English. But for me, I mean, the Lord put it on my heart to not just settle for the requirement, but to do more. So I began reading more English literature. I began, and in my college years, I began to listen to English speakers, you know, to be able to see the way native English speakers articulate, the way they pronounce words, the way they, approach English speaking. Because I knew in one way or the other I was going to get in contact with people that are from the West, and I needed to be able to communicate clearly with them, especially being called to preach. I needed to be able to use their language in order to reach them. So I started learning English at a young age, but it wasn't until I got to high school and finally to college.
And how does academic life differ in your country, and did you attend any higher education before coming back to college of ministry in the U.S.?
Was it different? I hear it a lot when we put together the two kind of next to each other, that European education might be higher, the standards. One thing, a difference, I realized is in America here, you guys don't like to make public news about your grade and how you did on tests. Well, in Hungary, there's like something that's called oral tests. When you just go out, in front of the whole class, they open the where the names are, the list, whatever, registry, that works. Yeah, and they say, okay, who's that? Nathan Kuchek. Okay, come up in front of the whole class. And then the teacher asks the questions, there. Okay, so what do you know about the First World War? Okay, and then just start talking about it in front of the whole class, And they say, okay, good job. Well, that was a D. Go back to your seat, Or we get back a test, and everybody, okay, so let's hear the grades. Okay, what did you get? Nathan Kuchek. Okay, A. Think body. And then they all have to say their grades loud, So that's something I know in America is not, wow, it's not constitutional, how you call it. But that's it's real in Hungary for sure. Is they do if you say shame people in front of the class and peers, and so. But for sure, I hear a lot, that education might be higher. Once I came back to America, I went to one of the schools, and it was my grade, and I just went in there for class, and then we're learning and said, oh, wow, is this 8th grade? I learned this when I was in 5th grade. I don't know. And just things like that, just it seems like it'd be a little different, but no, not much. It's Europe again.
Okay, from my side, I think the difference would be in how you transition from one level of education to another level. Here, I've realized that people just go from nursery, preschool, all the way to college. In my country, it doesn't work that way. Once you get to 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade, 9th grade, you write a final exam. And that final exam will determine whether you get to high school or you don't. So if you fail that exam, you are not going to high school. And if you pass the exam, then it means that you qualify to go to high school. And in the elementary school, from 1st grade all through 9th grade, you study all bunch of subjects, ranging from history, geography, science, biology, whatever it is, you study a lot of stuff. It is actually in high school that you get to choose to narrow down your study, either to study science, to study business, or to study general arts or languages or whatever. And then at the end of your study in the high school, you write another final exam. And that final exam also determines whether you go to college or you go to university or you go to the polytechnic, what we call now the technical university. And if you pass that one to yes, so you qualify. And finally in the university or the college, you get to finally narrow down your area of study. Like if you study science in the high school, then you could study medicine in the university, you could study pharmacy, or you could study dentition or whatever it is. So, but that difference isn't here in the United States. You just go from, start to probably college. You see, and one of the difference that I'll see is probably not just the educational sector alone, but just the way the whole economics arranged. In my country, people see education as a way to make life happen. I've realized that here in the United States, it is not like that. Someone can decide not even to go to college, and the person will be able to make a living. Whereas in my country, if you are not able to go to college, it might be difficult for you to make a living. You see, and people kind of have that in their mind, so everybody is trying all their best. But the other aspect of education that is very different is how we apply what we learned in the classroom. So for over here, I've realized that it's more practical than what we have. It's more theoretical back home. So you can have somebody having a degree in engineering, let's say mechanical engineering, but the person will not know how to even probably find a fault in a running engine that has just stopped. But he has a degree in engineering, mechanical engineering. So it's much different. It's more theoretical back home than it is over here. And I think one of the reasons that has happened is because of the wide range of subjects or disciplines that we have to study. But then you guys just get to focus on one area and make sure that you're a master of that area, whereas we just become a jack of all trades and a master of none.
And what differences exist in your country and that of shopping for clothes or food?
I was looking at that. It was interesting. Shopping for food. Well, I don't know. We sit in the car and then we go to the mall. And we have malls like that here too. I mean, I guess it's the difference. You guys have those like outside, next to each other, many malls. We don't really have that. We have some like big stores, that has a bunch of them. But our Walmart is like as big as your Walgreens, probably. I don't know. It's pretty small. It's a little smaller, of course. We're having getting, as I told you, it's almost the same like America. It's just everything is smaller. Of course, now we're getting to bigger and bigger stores, but it's really not that big of a difference, especially for clothes. I mean, we get these all kind of brands, now from America. We have now secondhand stores and has the American flag on it. It's like, hey, American clothes, get those. And we look at it, it's like, oh, just like European. Cool deal. All right, so it's not much difference.
Yeah, for my side, it's very different because the first time I entered Walmart, I was like, what do I take out of this place? Everything here is just so much. Because I didn't grow up in that environment. I never went into that kind of big store. We don't have big stores. So our clothing, if you will get a nice clothing, you went into a store, actually that is not actually big. But it just has specific clothes that you can get out of it. Most people go to the daily common market to get their clothes. And most of the clothes, of course, are second-hand clothing from the West. We call them bend-down boutique in the sense that you actually bend down to the ground, select your clothes from, that kind of set. And so we don't actually get to find out, okay, what is my size of shoe? What is my size of pants? What is my size of shirt? You try it on, if it fits you, that is your size. Whereas over here, you have to find out what is my size. You have to know your size. You go to the store and find that exact. It doesn't happen like that. with regards to food, most people grow their own food in Ghana.
Go ahead.
So in regards to food, most people actually grow their food back home. So we don't get much of our food from market or from the store. I mean, literally, nobody goes to the store and buys food to go home and eat. What the people buy from the stores are ingredients, actual ingredients that they are going to use to either assist or just complement what they already have at home. And coming over here to see the very big difference that you can just walk into Walmart, and by the time you get home, you will not probably even go to the kitchen at all, and you have a whole meal served. I mean, it doesn't happen that way for us. So we eat what we grow, and we grow what we eat.
And Mr. Ole, you've been in the United States for a presidential election. What difference do you notice between your upper level officials and how they're elected?
So the election method and how it goes? Okay, well, in our country, I guess we have like a lot of parties. That would be the main difference. So it's not just like it comes down to two. So it's like everybody runs, and then afterwards, so they already talk about it, they know who will their head person be. And then there's like, last election we had like 11, 12 parties we could choose from. Who do we want as our government to be? And it's really good. Now we have our government. They voted them for the third time in a row, and they all got majority. And it's not rigged. It's totally fair, you know, how it goes. And it's good. It's a very good conservative government. And I just like I like it how it works here too, and how it works there. I guess we could go into really depths right now. How is it different? But we also have democracy. We go there, you know, in the little booth, we fill out the stuff, you know, that we need to show our IDs, and then go and mark it. Actually, I was there for last election, presidential election here in America. Well, I didn't fill out a paper, you know, but I was there with my friend, which I thought was a little like, wow, okay, we can do it in America. In Hungary, they would shoot you, you know, if you go there without an ID. But I went there, you know, it's like I could have maybe fill out the whole paper and then maybe sign it and do stuff, you know. So I don't know, it's all different that way, but not much. Yeah, we have democracy too.
And what are the prominent religions found in your country, and how does religion influence the way that people behave?
Wow, I have to think about this if you want to speak.
Okay. In my country, Ghana is considered predominantly Christian country. But this varies from region to region. So we can say the country is basically divided into two main sections, the south and the north. Now, whereas Christianity dominates in the south, pretty much. Christianity, I mean, from my perspective, I would say Christianity by name or nominal Christianity. But it prevails more in the south because that is where the Christian missionaries that came from the west, that was where they stopped. There is actually a 500-year gap between Christianity reaching the south of the country and then coming up north. So Christianity, and then up north, because of that gap, there is Muslim or Islam in the northern part. And before Islam got there and before Christianity ever got there, the people were idol worshippers. So basically we have three main religions. That is Christianity, Islam, and then African traditional religion.
All right, cool. Just sorry, with Nathan. Okay, so Hungary would be called mostly a Christian nation. Very mostly. I mean, 95% basically. And of course which is very interesting. Like for example, we had the Turkish rule over us with their Islamic religion for 150 years, and you can see some of their temples and things like that, but you can barely find any Islam people there. And because due to like in 1000 when the country was formed, we had a King Stephen who was Catholic, and he basically butchered everyone else who were not Catholic, And so that's why the country was 100% Catholic, you know, and all pagan religions, everything was cleared out of the country, and that's how we were, and our kings were always a Catholic, and then we had the Habsburg rule over us. But so communism came in 1940, 1945, when communism started, and of course, you know, communistic rule, they tried to clear out religion, and that time we gained a lot of communist atheist people who claim that there is no God, which the Bible clearly says, you know, the fool says in their heart, there is no God. And because everybody knows there is a God, it's created in them. And so after communism went out, missionaries had the opportunity to come into the country because people were hungered. Every person are created with a hunger toward God. I mean, there is a void there that God can fill only. And so people had that void, and so missionaries came from all over the place, and they came from the east, and then many kind of religions came by, you know, and then I'm a Baptist, and then later on Baptist came also. But my family was a Baptist going back for a long time now, and then because of that, you know, when the Baptist missionaries came, then it was a really good opportunity. We just joined them back together, and so there's a little percentage of that too. But it's mostly Christian for sure. And how they behave, yeah, I mean, they call themselves Christians. They say they go to church once a year, but their lifestyle is not Christian. It more represents what the devil does.
And will you describe some of your family's favorite foods, especially during holidays?
Favorite food? Keep it short. There's a bunch of them. We eat Italian food a lot. A lot of pastas, and then yeah, Hungarian food would be more meaty and potatoes. So that would be it. But our family, we eat Italian. We like those kind of stuff. We eat couscous.
People have no basically this staple they like to eat for occasions or events and celebrations is rice.
And then, as a teenage young man, how would you be ordering a fast food meal differ from here?
Fast food? You guys have fast food? It's fast. You can just get it from the street.
Oh yeah, most likely. We didn't have fast foods until quite recently. So, but right now, if you order fast food, you have to actually go to the store. We don't have mobile apps that you can order online or whatever. You have to be present, they serve you. You can take it home, or you can sit there, eat it, and after that you pay the money. That's how it works.
Yeah, basically. Now we have the mobile stuff and all the fancy things. So it's pretty.
Mr. Hall and Mr. Timbani, I'd like to thank you for taking your time to speak with me about your culture in comparison to my culture in the Midwestern United States.
All right.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah, appreciate it.